It's season 2, episode 3 of the Hall of Fame show, and Evan, I thought we'd do something slightly different before we sort of have our pretty faces up for everyone to see. I thought we'd do the intro together.
Oh my God, man! I've graduated. I saw the Martin graduate. Yeah, I'm not used to making this part of the show. I don't know what to do. Am I?
Well,
my hair look okay through the phone?
Absolutely, it looks as good as the last time.
Excellent.
So, yeah, we've got a bit of a loaded show here. So we're going to be talking about, well, we know already that one person has been voted off the Hall of Fame island. So we'll talk about that briefly for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We've got a lot of deaths to talk about. Sadly, a Hockey Hall of Famer, a Baseball Hall of Famer, which we'll save for the end, and some of the greatest actors of our generation. One of my personal favorites who pass on. I know it won't really be relevant to what we talk about, but when do we ever stick on relevancy? Never. So why start now? The big meat of our show will be the Baseball Hall of Fame. They've announced their class, which is nothing. It's like Al Capone's vault. You wait all this time to find out that there's nothing. You kind of called that earlier. Mm-hmm. So you called a lot of things that I'm really not doing too well on a few things when we talk about our baseball predictions. I lost one really bad, and we'll get into that. And we're going to save the best for last. Hammer and Hank Aaron, who will be the hammer of the show. An absolute legend. And yeah, I'm still a little broken up about it. It's hard to say that you get broken up when somebody's 88, but you still do. And Hank Aaron's one of those guys that you get broken up about.
Mm-hmm.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's our intro. So now we do our cold open. Evan, how are you? How are things in Chicago?
Well, I just want to know who's Torch is getting stuff next on NFL Survivor.
Yeah, Leroy Butler, who I guess outed himself on that one. I wonder how the Pro Football Hall of Fame feels about that. So he went on Twitter and said, well, looks like it's going to be next year. And he's been really classy about it. But I can't imagine that they were too happy that one name was announced. They've done kudos to everyone else involved that we only know one elimination at this point. Where do you think they are in the process here? Do you think they told 5 people already they're not? Do they think they've already told 10 they're not?
Yeah, so we had a little bit of a debate on our channel, and I put forward that I think they probably had to tell the first 5 people eliminated because everybody knew who the first 5 eliminated were. And other people disagreed with me, but it seems to me that's probably likely that since everybody had to vote on the final 10. So for anyone who's unfamiliar with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, they have the 15 finalists, and unless there's a tie, and sometimes there's a 16th finalist. But regardless of how many there are, they cut from 15 to 10. Mm-hmm. And then they vote again. And they cut from 10 to 5. And they vote again generally, although apparently not this year. And then there's an up and down vote on each person making final 5. Now, it appears they eliminated that last part this year because there was such a long period of time where the names are going to be held since they're not announcing it for another 2 weeks. Usually they meet like the day before, or is it the day of even? And they make the announcements that night. But they're not doing that this year because of COVID and everything else. They were 8.5 hours on Zoom. Which, again, credit to them for doing that. And once again, screw you, Baseball Hall of Fame.
We're going to be saying that a lot today, by the way.
I'm sorry?
We're going to be saying that a lot today, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say that's basically the theme of this episode. Mm-hmm. But my guess is they had to tell those 5 people because everybody knew who those 5 people were. And I think they'd rather them know and then have it leak and then find out the other way. You know what I mean?
Well, the other 4 names weren't leaked, were they? Or did I miss this completely?
No, they weren't. No, but you're wondering how you think people were informed. My guess is they've already informed the first 5 who've been eliminated because of the fact it goes out. Now, I could be wrong. I have no other basis in this other than my own personal opinion of which 5 were probably the first 5 eliminated. And I'll tell you, I think they're Sam Mills, Leroy Butler, Rondé Barber, one of the wide receivers, so either Reggie Wayne or Torrey Holt and Jared Allen. I think just not my opinion on them, but just
Your prediction.
Based off of who's on the ballot and pecking order, if you go by seniority on the ballot and position and everything else. Like Rondé Barber and Jared Allen's their first time on the ballot, and they're behind other people.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Mills is definitively behind Zach Thomas. They're going to have to eliminate one of the wide receivers anyway. And Leroy Butler is just – John Lynch is there. Like, he's just behind John Lynch because they are comparable players. One might be slightly better than the other, depending on your opinion. But this is John Lynch's, eighth time as a finalist, and it's only Leroy Butler's second.
Right.
So Lynch has to get out of the way before Butler gets there. So my guess is those are the first 5 cuts. And if those are the first 5 cuts, I would imagine it's not surprising that one of them leaked. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm guessing.
Yeah. And Clay Matthews, of course, is that wild card. He could be anywhere from first guy out to in. Or third guy in.
I think he probably made at least the first cut because it's his only time there. And people are going to vote for at least to have that further debate or whatever on him. I would be surprised if he didn't make the final 10.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But after that, I have no idea.
Yeah, and for all we know, by the time people hear this, other names could very well have been leaked. We will see. We will see.
This breaking: Peyton Manning has been elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Evan, where'd you get this scoop?
It came in a box addressed to Peyton Manning's wife.
I knew you were going to do that. I knew that's where you were going with that.
It's just one of those things that's stuck in my craw. I'm sorry. I know I'm a hater as a Patriots fan, but that just has always bothered me. There are a lot of things about Peyton Manning that bother me, and that's the one I could get away with talking about. Because the other one, I'm pretty sure I get sued by Archie Manning if I talk about. So, what happened at the University of Tennessee?
I have a feeling that if any one of us gets sued, it's going to be me.
Oh, probably, but you're at least in the Caribbean. You're hard to reach. I live just outside Chicago.
That is
Archie Manning
that
could
is
probably
true.
walk to my house.
Well, I live here now. Things could change very quickly in 12 months. With my wife in Fairmont, hell, I could be in Chicago. We could be doing these live in our studio that we'll get or something. I don't know. We'll have to get a whole bunch of old baseball cards or something for the studio.
Our deluxe apartment in the sky. So, hey, you never know. I at one point collected gold-plated baseball cards. Maybe they're worth something now. Who knows?
I didn't know that there was such a thing.
Yeah, I was a little addicted to the Danbury Mint in my late teens, early 20s. It was kind of a weird phase for me. So,
there's a joke here. I just don't know what it is. Maybe we'll move on.
The joke is probably on me for buying gold-plated baseball cards.
Nice. So a few other significant deaths. We'll leave Mr. Aaron till the end. That I think are worth discussing. George Armstrong, Hall of Famer, Toronto Maple Leaf. As you mentioned before we went on air, you actually know more about him than I do, even though I'm the Canadian, grew up in Toronto. But I'm not a Leaf guy for regular listeners. And we've actually been approached about potentially having a sponsor. I'll tell you about that later.
Oh, wow. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are moving on up.
Wow.
Yeah. So, George Armstrong, Hockey Hall of Famer, as you mentioned, game-winning goal in the last time Toronto won a Stanley Cup. And I'm old, and this happened before my lifetime, 1967. Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's actually technically the final goal of the original Six era, because the next year was the first expansion.
That's true.
So technically he scored the last goal of the original Six era, but he passed away at the age of 90. He was a right winger for the Maple Leafs, retired in 1971. He started his career first year in the NHL was 49, and was still there in 71. So he had a very long career with the Leafs, ended up with 713 career points in 1,188 games. So not exactly a massive scorer for a right wing, but an important part of the Maple. I mean, he was in the Maple Leafs as a regular from 1951 to 1971. I mean, it's 20 years on that team as a regular in the original six era. So,
which is incredible in itself.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going off topic here. We're talking about the original six era, but something I forgot to ask you a couple weeks ago, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is right up your whole Bruins alley. So Willie O'Ree, who we've talked about quite a few times before, the first black hockey player, is going to have his number retired by the Bruins this year.
Yep.
And which is pretty cool. Willie O'Ree got into the Hockey Hall of Fame. Was it 2 years ago? As a builder.
Yeah,
and
I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah. So, like, in terms of his stats, not exactly. I mean, you can see why he wouldn't get in as a player. He wasn't in the league that long, but he played pro hockey for 20 years. He was just only good enough to get in the NHL for a pair of cup of coffees. Putting it directly. But again, what he accomplished and what he's getting a lot more attention for is I think, really impressive. Do you think, with you knowing Boston as well as you do, being growing up there and being a Bruins fan, do you think this is something that probably should have happened like 2 years ago at least? I mean, I can see why they wouldn't do this before, because if he's not in the Hockey Hall of Fame, it's not necessarily something that I would think that a lot of Bruins fans are even aware of his history. I mean, growing up as a Canadian, I never heard of him until I was a teenager. It just wasn't talked about.
So here's how unprepared the Bruins were to do this originally. When they signed Craig Smith, who was a really good free agent signing. I was one of those ones that I was like, this is the type of guy the Bruins should have signed for a long time. They signed Craig Smith this offseason, and they announced he was going to wear number 22. And I mean, it was worn last season by noted All-Star Peter Solaric. I know your favorite Boston Bruin.
Well, he's in the top 22, yeah.
Yeah. So they were seemingly unprepared for this, and then Craig Smith ended up changing. And it's not like it's been really protected. I mean, there have been 31 other players since O'Ree retired have worn number 22 for the Bruins. And I guess it's a little bit late in the way where they should have done it earlier. But the fact that they're doing it at all is interesting. Boston has a history, in sports history, outside the Red Sox.
Kind of where I was going with this. Yeah.
So in sports history, outside the Red Sox, who were owned by some of the most racist people ever in sports for many, many years, hockey itself is also a fairly white sport. There's actually a whole article, from a week ago about how hockey was the most racist sport in America because black people didn't play, which was interesting. Fair. I understand. It has, but Boston is notoriously, it has a reputation of not being the most friendly city to people of color. Now I think things have changed significantly recently, but that stigma is still going to stay there. The Boston did have the first ever black head coach. They had the first ever black NHL player. There's a whole bunch of other firsts that took place at Boston. But at the same time, when Bill Russell was the best player of the Boston Celtics, someone broke into his house in Reading, Massachusetts, and took a crap on his bed.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awful.
Every time Reading is like one of my rival high schools for sports in the Middlesex League, where I'm not exactly a multi-sport athlete, but I played on the tennis team, I ran track, and I played soccer there. And every time I'm in Reading when I was growing up, knowing that, I was like, the people who did that are probably still alive here, because I graduated in 97.
Jesus.
And that happened in the 60s, so it's only 30-something years. As much as you'd like to think it was a long time ago, it wasn't that long ago. But things and the busing crisis in the 70s didn't help either. But things are changing a little bit. So I'm not surprised that they're doing it. I guess I am a little surprised to answer your question. They're doing it now, other than the fact he's 85 years old and how much longer is he going to be around. So,
yeah, I guess I thought you might be surprised they're doing it at all because it before that. I mean, again, we're talking about a player that, let's forget whether he's black or white. I know you can't, but in terms of what he accomplished on ice on a pro level, it's not. I don't want to say not impressive because it is still impressive that he did this, but not on a Hall of Fame level. And where you're going to look, if you just look at the back of a hockey card, you're going to say like, why this guy?
Right.
And again, it's something that even my own country, because he's a Canadian, I grew up not knowing this. It might have been different, I guess, if I was an East Coaster, like where he's from. I think he's from Nova Scotia, I believe, and that might have been a different. I might have grew up knowing that a little bit more than I did, but. Yeah, no, I'm glad it's happening. I just sort of like wanted your take on that. But congrats, and that's something I didn't get to say. Congratulations to Willie O'Ree. It's well deserved, and I guess there won't be fans in attendance to see it, but I'll be tuning in for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he's 85. If you're going to do it, you want to do things like this when people are alive. You know what I mean? We've talked about that with the Baseball Hall of Fame not electing anyone, even though Dick Allen probably will be elected next year. It should have been elected this year.
Well, I don't even know that's a lock.
Yeah, you want to make sure that people you can celebrate people while they're still around.
All right. So. Do we want to look at a few of the other passings?
Sure. I'll run through a couple if you don't mind.
Please, no.
Just get them out of the way here quickly.
Hence, that's why I said, do you want to run through?
Yeah. Hey, I heard what you said. I said, just go do it. You want your monkey jumping for your organ grinderness. So outside of sort of what we do, just a few interesting people who I thought we should just talk about culturally this week died. Mm-hmm. Alberto Grimaldi passed away, who is the producer of all those spaghetti westerns like A Few Dollars More, The Good, Bad, the Ugly. He also produced Gangs of New York, I think along those lines. He passed away at the age of 95 in Miami earlier this week. We lost Cicely Tyson, who is one of the most important actresses, probably most decorated actresses the last whoever knows how many years. I mean, she was active through this year. She was started in 1948. So, I mean, she's all the way through. I mean, she was in How to Get Away with Murder up through last year. So still working well into her 90s.
Yes, that's true.
Like the definition of black don't crack, that whole phrase, that woman looked fantastic. Like well into her late 80s. It's amazing. I don't know. Whatever she was doing for like anti-aging is something I need to start working on.
I guess she would have been in her early 90s because she was, 94? And that show only went off the air 2 years ago.
Yeah, 96 is when. Oh, no, I mean it was still on last year. So in 96, is how old she is. She passed away. So, she passed away. Also passed away at 94. Though was another woman who actually was a one-state contestant, a Miss American pageant contestant, Cloris Leachman. Again,
although she was in a movie that's sort of semi-relevant to us, in a fictitious athlete film, The Longest Yard remake.
That is true.
I tweeted, Cloris Leachman made more people laugh after she turned 80 than most people will ever do in a lifetime. Like, absolute pro. There's nothing bad that anyone can ever say to me about her. I think that one got me a little bit more than Cicely Tyson, maybe because a lot of her dramatic things, and she did a lot of things on Broadway that I've never seen. But I'm more of a comic guy.
Or did you see American Gods at all? Have you seen that show?
I have not.
So Leachman was in that in that show the first season, And she was just so amazing in that. That was a dramatic role with a little bit of humor mixed in.
Mm-hmm.
But just that dramatic role, she was so absolutely incredible. That was only 2 years ago now, because they're going to the third season, but there's been all sorts of reasons it's been delayed.
Mm-hmm.
But she was absolutely incredible, even in that role as a 91, 92-year-old. So yeah, it was absolutely.
And both of them,
a great actor.
Well, you know this better than I do. Both of them were nominated for Oscars. No, didn't Cicely Tyson win one? I think.
Cicely Tyson, yeah. Well, Cicely Tyson definitely has a Tony and an Emmy.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if she has a. Hold on, I just closed her thing. So I'll look that up while we're doing it.
I know Cloris Leachman was nominated. I want to say for. Not Texasville, that was the sequel. The Last Picture Show, I think. I could be wrong. My movie knowledge is just plummeted with the amount of sports I've been watching.
She has an honorary Academy Award.
Okay, fair enough. Okay.
For Cicely Tyson. Hold on. My goodness. She was nominated for Best Actress in '73 for Sounder, but she never actually won. She won multiple Emmys. Won Tony, won a Peabody Award. It's in the Television Hall of Fame, was honored at the Kennedy Center. Other than that, she didn't really have much going on.
Okay. Yeah, other than that. So final score, Cicely Tyson 0, 3-6 Mafia 1.
Oh, God. No, she had a Lifetime Achievement. 3-6 Mafia hasn't gotten that yet. Yes, I understand that.
Yes.
Yeah, so she was close to the Television Hall of Fame. Let's see. Does she have a nomination? Academy Award, she was nominated. She won Best Supporting Actress for Last Picture Show. So, yes, she did.
I was right on that. Okay. Oh, she won it?
Yep.
Okay.
She won it. 71. So, anyway, so she passed. And one other person from I guess, the world at large who passed, Larry King, who I guess we have a little bit more of a connection with.
Well, I just remember Larry King always talking about Sandy Koufax. And I know he was a big baseball fan.
Yeah.
And
well, he was friends with Abner Doubleday, so.
Well, in all seriousness, didn't Larry King seem like he was 85 for the last 30 years?
Yeah. Yes, he did.
But one hell of a just one hell of a personality, just a great part in the growth of CNN. One thing that I did notice, and I want to sort of take a minor dump on CNN if I could.
Go ahead.
I don't watch CNN or Fox News or any news for that matter. I spend my morning, usually an hour, just reading news by going to the sites. I don't actually watch the news anymore, but I certainly read my fair share of it. I think it's kind of off-putting to me anyway, that Fox News did more, or Fox, I shouldn't say Fox News, FoxNews.com, rather, paid a better tribute to Larry King than CNN did. Something's not right about that. And that's not a praise of Fox. It's more of a shot at CNN. Like he helped build your network. Or your channel, rather, because it's not a network. But you know what I mean. I thought that was a little strange to me. But whatever. That's just sort of a minor pause that I just sort of wanted to say, because it kind of bothered me a bit. I would have thought that there would be so much more touching tributes, and maybe there was on the channel. So if I'm wrong about that's fine. But again, I don't watch it. I just read it.
Right.
So that's all. That's it. End scene.
Yeah. So yeah, Larry King, interviewer extraordinaire, passes away at the age of 87. So then I guess going through some of the things we care a little bit more about, I do want to point out that we did lose a couple of younger people to COVID this week. Former Red Sox first base coach Ron Johnson died of COVID at 64. But more shockingly, I guess, Siku Smith.
Yeah.
He died at 48.
My age.
From COVID. Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. One of the really great guys in basketball journalism out there. Literally nobody has anything bad ever to say about Siku.
Yeah, I was reading a lot about that today, and it's such a shame. I'm guessing he might have had something else on top of it at age 48, maybe not. Again, to sort of like parrot something that you've said before, you know what, people, we're wearing a mask. I know it's a choice and whatnot. Is it really that hard to do?
No, it's not, but
that's it. That's all I got on that. I mean, I hate wearing it. So you know what I did, Evan? I got cool ones. I've got my Bayern Munich one, and it makes me happy. I've got my Toronto Raptors one that I found here. I have my New Orleans Saints one on order, which may eventually get here. COVID might be done by then. Ordered a long time ago. But
Sorry, just going off the Toronto Raptors thing, I just want to talk about the power of Tom Brady for a second, getting the Super Bowl and everything. But since Tom Brady got signed with Tampa Bay, the Rays have been to the World Series and lost. The Lightning won the Stanley Cup. The Buccaneers are in the Super Bowl. And Tampa got a basketball team for the first time ever because the Raptors have to play there. I'm not saying it's Tom Brady, but I'm saying it's Tom Brady.
It's like the reverse equivalent to dating a Kardashian in sports. Which isn't true, by the way, because in 2009, Reggie Bush was dating Kim. They won the Super Bowl. But it's out there. People say there's a Kardashian curse. There's not. Same year, Lamar Odom won with the Lakers. Of course, everything went to shit for Lamar Odom, didn't it?
I mean, the Celtics have a Kardashian adjacent person this year on our team next couple of years, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, who's that?
Oh, come on, our center. Why can't I think his name? He just signed from Cleveland. Everything.
Oh, Tristan Thompson?
Tristan Thompson, yeah.
Are they still together?
I have no idea.
Yeah, why the hell are we talking about this?
I don't pay enough attention to Kardashians.
All right, let's segue the hell out of here.
Okay, sounds good.
One thing I want to give you a slight...
As on Kardashians we get to, someone else passed away.
Oh.
Harry Beale passed away. Do you have any idea who Harry Beale was?
No.
The first Navy SEAL. The first ever Navy SEAL of the United States passed away at the age of 90. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Yeah, and then the only other people I have here, just to finish this up before you go next thing, Randy Parton passed away, who's Dolly Parton's brother, had a couple of small country hits on his own. He was 67. The former, for a long time, number 2 scorer before Walter Peyton showed up in Bears history, Roger Leclerc, passed away at the age of 84. Running through this, we had... which of them passed away? One, I can't remember which of the Purify brothers passed away. James Purify also passed away from COVID at the age of 76. James and Bobby Purify, best known probably for the 1966 hit "I'm Your Puppet." I don't know if you remember that one.
I do know that one. I love that song. Yeah,
so James passed away of COVID at 76 earlier this week. Passing away from. I actually don't know what he passed away from, but we talked about Tom Nolan so much in our little things. One of his line mates on those 2 Broncos championship teams, Tony Jones.
Yeah, I read about that. Yeah.
At the age of 54. One-time Pro Bowler. He was second team All-Pro in '94, but didn't make the Pro Bowl. And did make the Pro Bowl in '98, but wasn't an All-Pro.
Mm-hmm.
But he was only 54. He only retired in 2000. But he passed away. Ron Campbell passed away. He's the animator from Yellow Submarine movie from the Beatles.
Oh, wow.
He was 81 when he just passed away. He did some other things as well. Did Rugrats, Goof Troop, New Adventures of Winnie Pooh, Darkwing Duck, all sorts of stuff like that. but probably best known for being one of the main illustrators of Yellow Submarine. And two more quickly, and we'll get out of here. Tom Stevens, who is the bassist for the Long Riders, one of the best people ever to join a rock band ever, because the Long Riders bassist quit, and he said, I could be their bassist, and literally showed up while they were having their meeting as to who their new bassist should be. He's like, hey, I can play bass. They're like, sure, you're in the band. And he stayed with them. He stayed with them for 37 years. He joined them in 1983, just walking in off the street because he liked the band, and he stuck with them for 37 years. But he passed away. He was 64. And one last one, another character actor, because I love character actors so much. You remember the actor Bruno Kirby from When Harry Met Sally?
Absolutely.
His dad, Bruce Kirby, passed away at the age of 95. Bruce Kirby has got to be the ultimate TV show bit part actor. He was in every single major television program you can think of from about 1958 on. He was a recurring character on Columbo. He was a recurring character in L.A. Law. He was in Murder, She Wrote. He was a Love Boat. He was like anything you possibly can think of. Bruce Kirby was in. He passed away at 95. It's someone I meant to bring up earlier, but I forgot. So that's everybody I got this week, and the Beige Mistress was Why.
Oh.
So
I got to find out what exactly happened between Bruno Kirby and Billy Crystal.
I don't know.
Yeah, they just started hating each other all of a sudden.
Did it have something to do with a wagon wheel cocktail?
Could be. It's a better thing than anything else I could think of. But moving on, we talked about Philip Rivers last week, who retired. Another big retirement this week, Jason Witten, which you mentioned when we were talking about people who could sort of, I don't want to say block Rivers from getting into the Hall of Fame, but I would argue, and I think you might agree with me, he's not a bigger name because he's not a quarterback, but he's a better candidate. So now Philip Rivers, just like that, is now the number 2 guy in retirements this year.
Yeah, well, didn't Gore sign a contract with the 49ers to retire? Or am I making that up?
Frank Gore signed a contract with the devil or something.
Well, I don't know if that's going to affect his Hall of Fame eligibility. But I thought he had signed a one-day contract with the Niners, or did I read he was going to and hadn't done it yet?
I didn't read anything about Gore. So if Gore's retiring, then that drops Rivers to number 3.
Yeah, and somebody else just retired too from the Steelers' offensive line.
Well, it's not official yet. It's believed that he will, with Marquise Pouncey.
Marquise Pouncey, thank you.
Yeah, so I don't know that that's official yet. Witten is. So, next week we very well might have those two to talk about. But Witten, to me, is he a first ballot Hall of Famer? I think he's close.
He's got to be close. Hold on, all-time receptions list. He's like 3rd or 4th. Time receptions leader. So let me go find that out.
Yeah, I think he's he's up there. I mean, he's number 2 in tight ends behind Tony.
He's 4th. He's the number 2 wide receiver, and he's 4th all time. The list goes Jerry Rice with 1,549. Larry Fitzgerald with 1,432. Fitzgerald's 117 away, which is like a season and a half, probably. I don't know if he's going to stick around or if he cares that much, but he's not that far away, honestly, from Rice at this point. Tony Gonzalez is 1,325. Witten is 1,228.
Mm-hmm.
Marvin Harrison, 1,102. So Jason Witten's number 4 all-time in receptions. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I would think so. Strange things happen, though. Because, again, like Witten right now, I think moves in as the number 1 guy from this class until, let's say, Drew Brees retires. No, he's not.
Drew Brees is number 1, yeah.
And
I wonder, what's more impressive, being 4th the all-time receptions list or 3rd on the all-time rushing list? Because we could have Witten and Gore up. which one is going to be more important to? Because here's the thing about Witten. He was like the Cowboys' offense for long periods of his career, right?
Okay.
Whereas Frank Gore was a player, seemingly, who for long periods of career who ended up doing pretty well.
Well, I think you answered your question right there, because Witten, we're comparing not necessarily stats, because it's the people behind the stats. Witten, to me, is a first or second ballot Hall of Famer. Frank Gore is a compiler, and one hell of a compiler at that. But Jason Witten, at one point, if he wasn't the top tight end, he was in that conversation in the top three. Frank Gore was in that top three conversation for running back 1 year. Maybe.
Fair enough.
So, to me, I got Witten over Gore. And Gore is going to be one of those players. I can't wait to see what happens with him. Because he could get in first ballot, it wouldn't surprise me. He could get in 10th, and it wouldn't surprise me. He's going to get in, but he's not this lock. When I read people say people write how he's a lock, they're not studying the trends and all this stuff. That's sort of like when we talked last week about Phillip Rivers. Well, statistically, he's right there. Okay, right. Who else is there? You're not looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And that's what you did better than me once we get to the baseball thing and the bet I colossally lost.
I did not think I was going to win that spectacularly.
Well, you won so bad that I'm almost considering sort of adding beers to that. I won't, because I'm petty that way. And we'll get there as to what it was. Because also at the same time, I mean, I won a pretty big one, and not once did I say, hey, you know what, the Houston Astros didn't sort of have many hit by batters. Yeah, but there wasn't much of a season.
True.
So what?
That's true. That's true.
Not once did I come up and say, you know what, I think I deserve a few more. Let's just call it a wash, because I was down by 3.
I was clearly joking on that thread, but I can't believe how far over my bet was on that one. So we might as well just go there now, unless you have something else.
Yeah, no, I don't. Let's go to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and I think we go top down. What do you think? Or do you want to go bottom up? Top down or bottom up?
The more time we can. Well, I do want to point out that I can't believe that Dan Herron asked himself to be removed from the ballot next year. It was just. It was just awful. They should put Dan Herron back on the ballot for his response.
Oh, was that Dan Herron? Okay, I must have missed that.
Yeah, it was Dan Herron who got 0 votes. On
did he say that? Really?
But it was completely tongue in cheek. Hold on, let me see if I can find the actual quote for it.
I didn't know that he actually did that. I thought you were actually making the joke there.
Oh no, hold on, Dan Herron.
All right, kudos on Dan for that.
Dan Herron, if you go to his page, by the way, on Twitter, his thing says, "I threw 88, retired." But here it goes. Dan Herron on November 18th, 2020. Hall of Famers trying to vote, figure out how many times they could vote for me. Not 1, not 2, not 3. That was pretty good. But this is the one that just came out on the day of the announcement after Schilling's rant. According to Twitter, I was not elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. They will tell me I'm taken off the ballot next year. But I'd first like to announce that I'm removing myself from next year's ballot and any going forward. # 0%.
Nice.
Yeah. And then Dallas Braden, I'm sorry, someone named Braden Hobbs. I saw it was Dallas Braden. Someone named Braden Hobbs texted with 0%. And Dan Herron replied with, "How many homers did you hit in the show, Braden? I hit several. Sleep tight."
Wow.
So Dan Herron should get to go back on the ballot just for his reaction to the Hall of Fame.
I love it. Well, I like the way we sort of like lighten the mood for something that's going to be pretty goddamn serious here with Kirk Schilling, because that's, I guess, where we start. If we're going, I was going to say it. So if we're going sort of like, or if we're going from the bottom up or the top down, that's sort of like a bad sort of like gay porn film.
Yeah, exactly. Before we go to Kirk Schilling, can we talk more about the career of Michael Kadire? No, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So, let's just get those 5 out of the way. A.J. Burnett, Michael Kadire, Dan Herron, Nick Swisher, Shane Victorino. Congratulations on the ballot. Nobody voted for you. So,
hey, congrats on making the ballot. That's actually something.
It is.
That means you played for 10 years, and just because you played for 10 years, not every 10-year vet makes the ballot. That's something.
That is true.
Yeah. So,
although I would feel badly if I didn't get a vote knowing that LaTroy Hawkins got 2. But that's just the thing.
There's that. So Kurt Schilling, he got 71%. That's his highest. He has 1 year left, and I'd like to do a deep dive on this. Did you see his whole Facebook page on this?
I tried not to, but yeah, I mean, yeah.
I did, and I sort of reprinted it for something I wrote for the site because I thought I didn't want to cherry pick like one thing, because you can say that he's whining and a bit. You could say he is. I don't know. You can say he's frustrated, which he is. So I figure let's just read the whole thing, and you and I can dissect it. What do you think?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. So from Kurt Schilling, this is everything that he wrote on his Facebook page. So, quote, "I can say at this point I am mentally done. I know math, and I know trends, and I know I will not attain the 75% threshold for induction. As I've stated often over the past years to those I've spoken with in my heart, I am at peace." Bullshit. Nothing, zero. None of the claims being made by any of the writers hold merit. In my 22 years playing professional baseball, in the most culturally diverse locker rooms in sports, I have never said or acted in any capacity other than a good teammate. So I want to stop right there. I was looking to see if there was people shitting on him as a teammate. I found managers, like GMs, complaining about him. I couldn't find a teammate crapping on Kurt Schilling. Is there something I'm not aware of? Like, you know this better than I as a Red Sox guy.
So the thing that Schilling was famous for as a teammate was he had like detailed notebooks of every at-bat for everyone he ever faced in his major league career. Mm-hmm. And he would share those with teammates when they're going out there to face certain batters, and how he's pitched him in the past and things like that. So he was one of those people who kept these notes for himself, was more than willing to share with teammates. And I never heard anything bad about him as a teammate ever. Okay. With the Red Sox or anywhere else. So.
All right, and I think that's sort of like really important to sort of mention, because there have been conversations with Hall of Fame for that. Actually, I want to give a shout out to our good friend Vinny Lospinuso, who put in our group, because we have our little Twitter group on baseball and Twitter group on football, a little private group. But hey, join our conversations. You can be part of it. Vinny said something I thought was awesome. He said if Terrell Owens was was a baseball player, he'd still be on the ballot.
Oh, that's probably true.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
I somehow missed that in the thread. There's a lot of stuff
on that thread. Yeah,
I turned the thread off at one point today because I was teaching a class and there's too many dings on my phone, and I turned it back on. And there were like 94 missed things, and I go, all right, I got to catch up on this later.
Yeah, I'm the one who put it together, and I can't keep up.
Yeah.
So like that's something I think is sort of really important. It's one thing if Kurt Schilling is an asshole to press. Is he an asshole in the locker room or in the dugout?
As far as I can tell, no.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he's the type of guy that you and I would want to have a steak dinner with. But is he somebody who you'd want sort of like pitching for you every 5 days? From what I can see from his teammates, let's say the answer is yes. Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll move on. So more from Kirk. I've certainly been exposed to racism and sexism and homophobia as it's part of who human beings are. I've played with and talked with gay teammates. I've played with wife beaters, adulterers, assaulted. I don't think he quite meant that here. Drug addicts and alcoholics. I've never hit a woman, driven drunk, done drugs, PDs or otherwise. Assaulted anyone or committed any sort of crime. But I'm now somehow in a conversation with two men who cheated. He means Bonds and Clemens, who we'll talk about later. And instead of being accountable, they chose to destroy others' lives. Not great, best English, but to protect their lie. Ryan Braun did more of that, but okay.
Yeah.
But, I mean, okay. So we see what he's trying to say. That having said all that, the media has created a Kurt Schilling that does not and has never existed. It's one of those things that has allowed me to sleep at night. That has allowed me to sleep at night? Okay. Not an ounce of that is to absolve myself of sin. Lord knows I've committed my share and will do so again. Never malicious, never to willfully or intentionally hurt another person. I was 100% accountable and still am. Even the thought of responding to claims of Nazi or racist or any other term so watered down and rendered meaningless by spineless cowards who have never met me makes me ill. In modern times, responding to such drivel makes me validate the claim. So, there's a lot to unpack just in this little thing here. He's not wrong. The amount of times I see that where people are calling him some pretty awful shit that may not necessarily be justified. And, okay, at the risk of sounding offensive, like when I was a little kid, when I would hear the term Nazi, I pretty much knew what that meant. It means a hell of a lot more in 2020. He's not wrong when he says it's watered down. What? I know, this is a tough topic.
I don't know if Nazis particularly watered down when people were marching on the Capitol with Nazi flags earlier this month.
All right, fair enough, but I don't think that's where he's going with this.
Right, so...
Because we're trying to figure out his intent, not... Because intent, I think, yeah. But I know what you're trying to say. Also, in the same Capitals, there was a couple of people who had rainbow flags. So what does that mean?
I mean, okay.
No, it did. I mean, and again, this is not me absolving any of that shit. I think that's all disgusting. Having said that, in my lifetime, the people and you know we've seen this, and we're getting a little more political than I want. And it's not a defense of Kurt Schilling at this point, but I do believe that he believes he's not a racist in any way. Fair to say?
I believe that is true, yes. Yeah. I believe that is entirely true.
There's a couple things where there'll be some ists where I think he's wrong in his assessment of himself, but we'll get there. But that's got to be kind of rough if you think that your past history does not reflect these labels. I can't imagine the hurt he must feel if this is true. I don't know. I don't know the guy.
Yeah, so I will say one of the first people who jumped to his defense was Peter Gammons, who knows Schilling very, very well. Okay. Knew Schilling when he was a minor leaguer with the Red Sox. He's Red Sox drafted Schilling originally. Okay. And said that a lot of the comments made about him are overblown, but he's certainly not helping himself. Oh, God, in any way of these things. I also found it interesting. He does have some decent points in there. Let's be honest. Mm-hmm. I do want. I know we're going much further down the list, but the only person who really dropped in this whole thing was Omar Vizquel.
Right.
Why did Omar Vizquel drop?
We know why, and we'll get there. But
we'll just say it now because he was accused of hitting his spouse. Mm-hmm. We don't know if it's true or not. But that was something he was accused of, and he brought that up. He never did that. Correct. He did bilk a state for like a whole bunch of money.
That is true.
Which he conveniently leaves out of what he said. So it's not like he's this angel who's never done anything wrong or anything not worthy of.
True.
So he is...
He's a flawed individual.
Hall of Fame if he had lost his ability to write or talk 10 years ago. You know what I mean?
Well,
he'd already be in. That's the only thing that's keeping him out is his own mouth.
Yeah. So he's got a bit more here. My love of this country has always been worn on my sleeve. My desire to do the right thing and be a good person has driven most of my life choices. I stand at my locker 400 times after my starts and took every question and answered honestly. Those people, sort of tying in with what you said there, who stood there asking the questions, no, put that in capitals, what they're claiming is untrue, yet they quote, requote, and link to another story after story that began as lies and grew into bigger ones. The game has made it clear that it does not want me back, and that's fine. The game owes me exactly nothing. It gave me a million times more than it took, and I'll forever be deeply in debt to it. My desire to work with and teach young men in the art of pitching will be tucked away, which I guess sort of ties in with what you were saying, because I didn't know that. So it goes on a little bit more here. But as I watch my wife battle cancer and go through the grueling, soul-crushing process of chemotherapy, and I went on her Facebook page, so yeah, it's. I don't know what she has, but certainly lost all her hair, and it's from her point of view, it's certainly very touching from her posts to him. But anyway, and see her hurt every time some idiot writes another hit piece linking to other hit pieces, none rooted in any sort of truth, but rather the story after story of what he meant was and what he's saying is, and that's a dog whistle for. All the while providing zero actual acts or quotes of the claims being made. I can't help but go into deep conversation with my father. And then a quote of his dad, never live your life trying to impress people you don't know or who don't know you and what that means in today's world. Actually, I like that quote.
Mm-hmm.
Being an Aspie, I don't know what an Aspie is.
I don't know what that is either. Someone has Asperger's?
ASPIE? No.
No, I'll look it up right now, but keep talking.
Okay. Has allowed it to flow like water off a duck's back. But to see the hurt that I'm causing my wife and have my children read and hear this stuff and then look at me and try to match a public image that in no way aligns with who their father is has been something I never considered. So, Jesus. Again, I don't know what kind of guy he is. I know.
Yeah, so again, sorry, by the way, I was right. Aspie does mean someone with Asperger's syndrome.
Okay. Interesting. I don't even know exactly what that is, and I feel ignorant here with that.
Hold on a second. I'm just checking something while we do that. Asperger's.
So I'm guessing it's sometimes what he's... can't be that bad.
Now his son Grant has it.
Okay.
So, anyway, okay.
All right, so moving on. And this is a sort of an interesting thing that I definitely want your take on. I do not and never will scoreboard the cowards, but if I am not mistaken, only Jamie Moyer and I swept the humanitarian awards players that can win. Awards meant to define who a true man is apart from the player. These same writers voted on those awards. Do those awards and 22 years absence of a single validating event to support the claims define me? Or does a what he meant to say tweet, based on the vote in the pike of dung, pike of shit, authored by morally decrepit men, here's the only one he really shits on here, men like Dan Shaughnessy, so there you go, you got something in common with Kirk Schilling.
Yeah, well, not going political, but Ted Cruz and Alexander Ocasio-Cortez agreed on something today. So it's not
briefly, but yeah.
Briefly, yeah.
I did see that, but yes. And they're both right.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on. This is not a political show. There's 1,000 of those others. I asked you maybe if you wanted to do one. You said no. You were right. Like you are a lot.
No, there's no upside to that.
Exactly. So. Yeah. So, I cannot and will not say or do anything to possibly soften a weak-willed man's opinion of me. And it's not something I believe, just or not. I've chosen Arizona as the team I would have represented had I been inducted. And even though I heard someone calling for the D-backs front office to meet, should the induction happen, I stand with that decision, as I know Mr. Kendrick, I guess that's someone with Arizona, to be an honorable and kind man. So going back to that, he's raised two very good points. The first being, and we're going to talk about this again, I'm sure, today. These are the same writers in many cases who now have changed their minds, as we're going to talk about with Bonds and Clemens and whatnot. I think that the humanitarian awards he's referring to, was it the Branch Rickey Award? I might be wrong on that, but I know there's two. And so they're more referring to like giving back to the community and whatnot. Dan Shaughnessy, you've got a lot to say about that. Just to put it in perspective, for his Baseball Hall of Fame vote, he voted for one person, Jeff Kent. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Dan Shaughnessy, who, by the way, was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame as a writer last year, is one of the... He has gone full wrestling heel. As a matter of fact, most of those Globe writers, I've brought in another one, Ron Borges, who's on both the Pro Football Hall of Fame committee and the Seniors Committee, has also gone full wrestling heel at this point. And he's just contrarian for the part of being contrarian. If there's something nasty he can write about somebody, he does every single time.
Yeah.
So he's picked a very easy target that very few people like outside of sports writers who, these same sports writers who you would like to point out, although I don't think it's actually technically in there, who supported Bill Conlon, who is a Baseball Hall of Famer who was diddling little children, and got a whole bunch of support that, we have to wait until there's actual stuff.
Right.
So, I mean, he has decent arguments in there. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, there's a couple more things I'm going to skip through because it's not really that pertinent with that. So I'll just finish here. I wanted to read, and this is where people just sort of like said he took his ball and ran, and I get that too. I wanted to reiterate this final point. I will not participate in the final year of voting, not his choice. I am requesting to be removed from the ballot. I'll defer to the Veterans Committee and men whose opinion actually matter and who are in a position to actually judge a player. I don't think I'm a Hall of Famer, as I've often stated, but if former players think I am, then I'll accept that with that honor. And then there's a couple more things here, but it's not really pertinent. So I'm reading this, and I could be wrong. Never met the guy. Never will meet the guy. Not sure, again, I want to have steak with the guy. But there's a lot of validity here. Here's a guy who recognizes he's not going to get in. Now, he's also not taking any responsibility for him doing a lot of things he shouldn't have done. What was that tweet he did? Tree lynch journalists or something like that.
Yeah.
I get disliking journalists sometimes. You and I have discussed some journalists we don't like. We just discussed one, Dan Shaughnessy.
Yeah, but
doesn't mean I want to see him hung.
No.
Whether he meant that or not, I don't know. But he's a public figure who dealt with press his entire life. He knows better. Or he should know better. Obviously, he doesn't know better. So in a lot of ways, he put himself in that position. I was reading a couple things today, things that I wouldn't normally read, but from Outsports. I think it's called Outsports. So like a gay sports site. Needless to say, they are very much against Schilling going in. And they brought up the tweets that he said before, which were basically retweeting memes. The first meme was, let him in. It's a picture of some guy who's wearing a blonde wig, not a very unattractive guy, and it says, let him in to the restroom with your daughter or else you're a narrow-minded, judgmental, unloving bigot or something like that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which was stupid. But the one that should have got more attention, it didn't. If you're trying to understand how Democrats can believe Obama is a good president, consider the fact that they believe Bruce Jenner is a woman. Okay. So, is Kurt Schilling a transphobe? From these two tweets, probably.
I mean, it appears.
Appears to be. He's also sort of like went on his Facebook page and said like a man is a man and a woman is a woman. And I think you know what he means by that.
Yep, he means the same thing that J.K. Rowling means.
Right, exactly. Now, does that make him an asshole? Well, possibly. I look at people in my life who have changed their opinions, have done a complete 180. And I won't say who, just someone very close to me, in case they're listening, who was very homophobic and after working with a lot of gay people, completely changed their mind on that. Is Kurt Schilling around trans people? Probably not. Is he an asshole for what he said? Is he redeemable? Yes, we all are. Well, not all of us, but most of us. I'll close with this. Kurt Schilling, to me, is a baseball Hall of Famer because of what he did on the field and so much more of what he accomplished. And Jay Jaffe, someone who you and I both respect a hell of a lot,
yep,
who said that he didn't want to put him in because he didn't want to give him a bigger platform. You're wrong. You're so wrong. The more you keep him out, the bigger his platform is. It's a bizarre world. I don't know why it works that way, but it works that way. Dick Allen, who we talked about not that long ago, is a bigger name because they never put him in.
Yeah. Pete Rose is the ultimate example of that.
Absolutely. He told me so. He literally told me so when I talked to him. He told me that. And he was right. So, as weird as it is, you want to punish him? Induct him. What left does he have after that? Nothing.
Just saying that he got in, I guess. Well.
Right. So, it's a very strange...
I mean, we were talking on our baseball one, and Jack, who I have intense respect for, mentioned that Schilling doesn't belong in the same Hall of Fame as Jackie Robinson. And I brought up the fact that Schilling wouldn't be like the 10th worst person.
Well, Jack wasn't on our baseball one. Or you mean our baseball conversation on Twitter?
The conversation.
Okay.
So
okay.
Not the live one, the Twitter.
Okay.
Conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I only brought up 3, but I mean, Schilling wouldn't be like in the top 10 most despicable people in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Agreed.
So, as much as the whole character clause thing is being used as a cudgel by people who actually don't, I think, really care about anything more than making themselves look like they're moral beings, who definitely are not. Mm-hmm. I would vote for Schilling even with everything else because you're supposed to talk about what he's doing on the field. Ty Cobb is in the Hall of Fame. Ty Cobb is one of the biggest assholes of all time. Mm-hmm. Kennesaw Mountain Landis is in the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. He is certainly one of the biggest assholes of all time. Tom Yawkey, Charlie Comiskey. You can go on and on and on. Bowie Kuhn.
O.J. Simpson.
Oh, well, yeah. That's different Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Sure, but yeah, I mean, it's a different animal, but
like you can go on and on and on with all this stuff.
Yeah.
And The question is whether or not they were a Hall of Famer for the way they played. I think Schilling measures up, not even like a borderline. He's well over the line.
I think so too.
And he never was accused of or thought to have used any sort of performance-enhancing drug, which people are using against other people. And regardless of his points and how abhorrent you may find them, as a player, he deserves it. Mm-hmm. And keeping him out is not actually going to, like I think you said, not actually going to have the effect you think it does. Because Hall of Fame is not somehow richer because Kurt Schilling isn't in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally.
Like there are already so many scoundrels and rogues and ne'er-do-wells. How often do well? Ne'er. They ne'er do well. Sorry. I have to use that joke every time I say it. That's anyway. There's so many of them in there already that he fits right. He's better than most. I'm not gonna lie. So I don't know. I think we spent too much time on Schilling in what we're doing. We're at like 20, 25 minutes in.
Well, I mean, he is sort of like the main event of this particular thing. So I figured let's just sort of like run with that. Bonds and Clemens barely moved. I figured...
Although the most interesting thing about that, we've been joking for years who votes for Clemens and not for Bonds. It's switched. One more person voted for Bonds than Clemens.
I gotta know who that is.
Went the other way.
Who are these people?
I don't know, but two people went up for that. Well, someone brought up Mandy McCreary as the reason they voted for Bonds and not Clemens.
Okay.
So I could sort of see that. But yeah, it went the other way though. For years and years and years now, Clemens has been getting one more vote than Bonds every single time. And this year it switched. Yeah, but they both barely went up. Bonds went up 1.1% and Clemens went up 0.6%.
I figured,
they're not getting in.
Yeah, I figured they had at least get to 65%, which they didn't. To sort of move past something that looked like they could get through, and it didn't happen. And let's just sort of like put a pin here in Schilling, Bonds, and Clemens as we sort of move on.
Let's get to someone non-controversial, like Omar Vizquel.
Do you want to go to you want to go to him now?
I mean, what else we can say about Clemens and Bonds? Honestly,
there's nothing left to say.
People thought they used.
There's nothing left to say. But yeah, okay, let's go to Omar. Omar, I'm not somebody. I think I've made it public in our little group. I think he's slightly overrated, and I did not vote for him in our group.
Did anyone vote for him in our group? I think he was shut out, wasn't he?
Something like that. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
he was.
He was a defensive compiler, which is fine. I mean, Omar Vizquel is a great player, but not a Hall of Fame player. But the domestic abuse allegation, which seems credible. I mean, again, I don't know. I'll just leave it at that. But he's the only guy that I can see, unless I'm missing someone. So he dropped from 52.6 to 49.1, and it could have been more because some of the voters may have put their vote in before that came out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think everyone else went up except for Manny, who stayed exactly the same.
The only other one who's higher than Omar is Scott Rowland. Went from 52. He's 52.9 from 35.3.
Yeah, he's got a trajectory. He may make it next year. I know that sounds crazy, but he's gone. He's came on the ballot in 2018. He was at 10.2. Then 2019, he was at 17.2. Mm-hmm. Pretty good jump of 7 points.
Yep.
Then last year, he was at 35.3, so he doubled it essentially, or more than doubled it. And now he's at 52.9. He's up 42% in 3 years. He's going to get he may get low 70s or just sneak over the line next year.
That's possible. And we'll talk about like who's eligible next.
Particularly with who's coming on.
Yeah.
So
it's very possible. Billy Wagner, I think you know how I feel about him, but yeah. So he's at 46.4. Billy Wagner is trajectoring. Is that a word? But he's.
It is now.
It is now. So 6 years, 46.4, 16.7% not that long ago. Wagner's probably going to get in. I don't think he should, but that's irrelevant. We're not talking about what I think. We're talking about what's going to happen. If Billy Wagner gets in, if it gets John Franco in, or Dan Quisenberry, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, if we need Billy Wagner to get... I think we're all behind, like everyone in our group's behind Dan Quisenberry in the Hall of Fame. So we need to figure out how, if we need Wagner to get Quisenberry there, that's fine.
Yeah, I can deal with that. Todd Helton, 29.2
Another huge jump.
Yeah, 29.2 to 44.9. And I like Helton a lot. It just, I don't know. It seems a little weird just with everyone here. But the weirdest one to me is Gary Sheffield.
Mm-hmm.
So he's 40.6. What did Gary Sheffield do in the last couple of years? Okay, he was a vagabond player. Not that he was a bad player, but he went from team to team to team to team to team. He's got the PED stain on him.
Yep.
Wasn't somebody who liked to talk to the media. What am I missing?
When's the last time you heard Gary Sheffield speak?
I guess that's what I'm missing. I can't remember the last time I heard him talk.
And that's why he's rising.
I guess it's as simple as that.
By saying nothing, he is rising.
Sounds like Colin Kaepernick. Do nothing. Say nothing. And make more money than you've ever made in your entire life.
Andrew Jones.
Oh, look, I love your segue there. You didn't want to go there, but that's okay.
We've talked enough politics. That's fine. So Andrew Jones is interesting because he started at 7.3, and then the second year he went to 7.5. So he gained like a vote or two.
Yeah.
And then last year he was up to 19.4%.
And now 33.
And now he's up to 33%. Now here's the thing about Andrew Jones.
Yep.
I've never seen anyone hit 30 and just be really bad all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. So I think we were joking, or I can't remember who it was joking in our actual pod that we did, that Andrew Jones may have been a little bit older than they claimed when he signed his contract, which would make a lot more sense because he was done at 30. Like, done.
I don't remember who that was either, but I love Andrew Jones. I'm higher on Jones personally than Roland, Wagner, and Helton.
I'm higher on Jones than Wagner. I am not higher on him than the other two. I'm higher on Helton than any of those four.
Okay, fair enough.
I go Helton, Roland, Jones, Wagner. And we did our thing. I voted for three of those four. I did not vote for Wagner. I voted for the other three.
Okay.
So Jones was my last person I voted for.
Would you put Jones close to those other two, though?
I put Todd Helton way above all of them.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right, fair enough.
I think Helton was one of the most feared hitters in the National League for a long period of time. Roland was a very good player for a long period of time. Like, no, I'd say very good. That's not damning the St. Pace. I mean, he was he was like an 8 or 9 out of 10. There are times Helton was a 10 out of 10 in his career in terms of how teams feared him in the lineup. So I put Helton above him. Andrew Jones was a 10 out of 10 at times too, but again, he was done at 30.
No, fair enough. So next on that is Jeff Kent, who, he's gotten up to, what did he get up to? 32.4.
Yep.
He's not going anywhere. Again, according to Dan Shaughnessy, the best player on this ballot.
Well, he's certainly the best stats-wise. You can make an argument he's one of the best second basemen of all time.
Okay, but is he a Hall of Famer? I mean, to me, he's under it. And I like Jeff Kent. I like Jeff Kent. But I don't see him as a Hall of Famer. I never have. I see him as like a really good player who is kind of where he should be.
Yeah, so do you see Dustin Pedroia as a Hall of Famer?
No.
How about Ian Kinsler?
No. I'm not looking at their stats right now. I'm guessing you are, but I'm just...
No, I'm bringing up people who are close to him on the Jaws leaders.
Okay.
How about Tony Phillips?
No.
Yeah, so...
I'd love to have any one of them as my second baseman for a decade.
Yeah. Yeah, Pedroia, I think, would have a better thing if he just didn't get injured right away or get injured and just never come back.
Mm-hmm.
He won Rookie of the Year and MVP and was great up until again, like Nomar, got hit by a pitch he got spiked.
See, Nomar, I see as a Hall of Famer more than any of those guys.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Kent, according to Jaws, is the 21st best second baseman, right behind Pedroia. But there are other ones that rank him higher. But yeah, he's right down there. So he's ahead of Bobby Dorr and Nellie Fox and Bid McPhee, Johnny Evers, Tony Lazzeri, Red Schoendienst, Bill Mazeroski, other people like that are in the Hall of Fame. But
and all good players.
A long way down from most other people.
Yeah.
So
here's the one. The next two fascinate me the most: Manny Ramirez, Sammy Sosa. Man Ram obviously is a bigger deal to you, being a Red Sox guy.
He didn't move at all. He had the exact same percentage, 28.2.
Did you see a tweet from Baseball Reference? It was either today or yesterday. And
no.
Okay, so they were saying from an informal poll, I must have missed it because I do follow them on whatever. And it said like who they would sort of like have inducted this year, and it was Bonds, Clemens, and Manram, based on people who were sort of like following. Now, Manny Ramirez, I think you and I both would say he would have been a Hall of Famer had he not got popped twice.
Manny Ramirez would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer had he not gotten popped twice.
But he did. So,
yeah. And
you and I, we're in the same opinion. If you got caught after 2004, that's when baseball sort of like had, or baseball's union rather, said, okay, we're going to agree with you, Major League Baseball, that if you got caught doing steroids or PEDs, that's a suspension. Which is why I think you and I, and a lot of people that we know, say, sorry, Bonds is a Hall of Famer, Clemens is a Hall of Famer. You screw up after? Yeah. Ramirez screwed up after. Twice.
Yeah. So of the top 10, of the top 15 people that list as left fielders on Jaws in baseball history, only 4 of them are not in. Someone named Sherry McGee, who I cannot tell you very much about, is number 14. Mm-hmm. The other 3 are number 1, Barry Bonds, number 5, Pete Rose, number 10, Manny Ramirez. It's an interesting list.
No, it very much is. And I struggle with Man Ram personally. I don't know if I had a vote what I would do. When we had our mock vote, I said yes. If I had a real vote, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah, I've drawn the line. I'm a massive Red Sox fan. We don't win World Series without him. He's still the greatest free agent signing in the history of the Red Sox, without a doubt.
Yeah, totally.
But that, and I mean, he attacked he attacked a Red Sox employee like a 75-year-old man. And, like, he attacked the Red Sox traveling secretary, which is what got him traded.
Yeah, but it was roid rage. Oops. No, it wasn't? Okay.
Like, there's... Manny being Manny was absolutely awesome to watch. He was terrifying.
Oh, my God,
yes. If you were an opposing player. But he got busted twice. I'm sorry.
So then we have Sammy Sosa. 17%. Jesus Christ. Can you imagine when you and I guess we would have been watching that baseball home run battle between McGuire. So it wasn't a battle. They just let Sosa in because everyone loved Sammy Sosa at the time. It was McGuire chasing that home run record. Sosa really had nothing to do with it. Let's be honest. And they sort of like threw him a bone there because like Sammy was just this electrifying personality. People forget how much people loved Sammy Sosa. I'm going to bring this up because of what happened later. But if someone were to said to me at that point in time, oh yeah, those two guys you're watching, oh by the way, neither of them are getting in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Like, I wouldn't have believed it. I think, and I apologies
but their managers will.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So apologies if I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I think with Sosa, the biggest thing with the writers is that I think they felt they got played with Sosa. Bonds was an asshole. He acted like an asshole. That's fine. You don't have to be nice to writers. Same with Clemens. He wasn't exactly the nicest guy. Sosa played you. And did you ever hear about like after Sosa sort of like left the Cubs? And that last day where he either pulled from the game or he wasn't even in the game. And then he left the clubhouse before the game was over?
No.
Okay. So I'm remembering it the best way I can. So last time he ever plays for the Cubs, he bolts. He says, I didn't bolt. And then it turned out he really did. An article came out that had a bunch of the other Cubs, one player in particular, and I wish I could remember who it is. I'll look it up later. Took his baseball bat and just destroyed his boombox because apparently he just played soca nonstop or salsa, whatever it was. And just like acted like he was the boss there. And to the rousing applause of the rest of the team. And it also reminds me of a Rick Riley piece when Sports Illustrated mattered. Which, hey kids, under 20, Sports Illustrated was not a shitty website. It actually mattered. It was a magazine, and we gave a shit.
It's honestly the worst major website I've ever seen.
Sports Illustrated? Oh, it's terrible. It is horse shit. But anyway, Rick Riley did something where he apparently went to Sosa and said, look, and Sosa would say, like, I'm not taking anything. Well, hey, I've got something here. Want to take it? Like, I have to talk to my union. Which was the right answer. Having said that, it was one of those things where Sosa played the media, and then writer after writer after writer figured out, holy shit, this guy's an asshole. Because why is Sammy Sosa this low? Why is he lower than Manny Ramirez? And I like Ramirez, but Sosa overall was a bigger name. Sammy Sosa should not be at 17%. But because writers got played. That's what I think.
Entirely possible. Yeah, I just want to say one thing. So that 1998 season, we had 13 players hit at least 40 home runs. I'm going to read you the list of the 13 players. And just listen to what you thought of them and how few of them are getting in the Hall of Fame. You ready?
I'm ready.
Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa. Ken Griffey Jr. was third with 56 that year. He got in.
Yep.
Greg Vaughn hit 50. Albert Bell, Jose Canseco, Vinny Castilla, Juan Gonzalez, who disappeared from the ballot quickly.
Juan was good,
not
though.
even in the conversation.
He was
a great player.
Yeah.
He also was probably on PEDs. Manny Ramirez, Andres Galarraga, Rafael Palmeiro, Alex Rodriguez, move on. By all rights, without the PEDs, McGuire, Sosa, Griffey, Ramirez, Palmeiro, Rodriguez are all definitely in.
Mm-hmm.
Albert Bell, Jose Canseco, we'd be having it, and Juan Gonzalez, we'd be having a different discussion about. But only one of the top 13 that year who hit at least 40 homers is going to end up in the Hall of Fame.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Further down that year, by the way, other Hall of Famers, Guerrero hit 38. Nomar hit 35 that year, 2 behind Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds only hit 37 that year. That's the year he decided to start taking stuff.
You know what?
Bagwell hit 34, Chipper hit 34, Piazza hit 32, and then we're going down. Roland hit 31, Tommy hit 30. So
all right. So my good friend who I kind of mentioned before, he said like that was the year that Bonds sort of looked around and said like, "Are you fucking kidding me? I'm way better than McGuire and Sosa," and that's when he started juicing.
Yep.
He's probably right. A couple other guys we got. Andy Pettit, 11-3 to 13-7. We've talked about him before. And here's where I fucked up our bet so bad that if people want to say, hey, Buck, give Evan not just a case of beer, give him a whole brewery because you were so off. Because here's the bet. I said that the combined thing of all of the new entries would not hit 5%. Holy shit, was I wrong. Because holy shit, I didn't look at the fact that it's a more open ballot.
Yeah, well, here's one thing I will say. First of all, it was 7.5% combined.
Did I say 7.5%?
So we were saying combined 7.5% for all of them. And I knew I was doing well when, like, the first 6 ballots or whatever, 3 of them are. So it was like of the first 20 ballots, like Burley had like 4 votes. And I was like, well, I'm going to win this just based on that. Yeah. But Burley got 11%. Torrey Hunter got 9.5%. Torrey Hunter got 9.5%. That's the guy people in the media liked. He was a good guy.
He was.
Tim Hudson got 5.2%. Hold on a second. I'm just trying to see. Lou Whitaker, his first time on the ballot, got 2.9%.
Oh, my God.
His only time on the ballot, he got 2.9%. And Torrey Hunter, again, great guy, got
9.5. Well, think about this. We're going to be having Ted Simmons getting into the Hall of Fame this year, who did not make it. He was a one and done.
Yeah, what did Simmons get? Hold on. I was looking up. Dwight Evans got 5.9. Ted Simmons. That's Al Simmons. So I need to Ted. I have a spreadsheet, of course, because he got 3.7. He got fewer than Mickey Lolich on that.
I like Mickey Lolich. I like that guy. But yeah, it's holy shit! Did I get this wrong?
Yeah, I was kidding about needing more. It's just that I don't think we've ever had anything short of a season being canceled where it was just so one-sided.
Well, to the point though, like Evan, if I would have said like, "Hey, I'll give you Torrey Hunter and Tim Hudson to make the ballot," you would have told me to screw off.
No kidding. I thought there was a outside shot at Torrey Hunter. Had he gotten like 3 or 4%, I would have been shocked because he was just someone who everybody liked. He was fun to watch. He did a great job not catching Ortiz's home run and falling into the Red Sox bullpen in that playoff game. Sorry, I just had to throw that out there. It's one of my favorite Red Sox pictures of all time. It's he's falling over that wall in left field with his feet up in the air, and behind him is the Boston police officer in the bullpen with his hands up, like mirroring it, that the ball went over the fence. It's a great picture. But yeah, I wouldn't surprise with that. But Tim Hudson getting 5.2% is crazy. Particularly the other thing here that's weird. I'm going to go one further. And Bobby Abreu, by the way, we didn't really talk about. He went up from 5.5 to 8.7. So good for him having more time in the ballot. But the thing that gets me more than anything is if you look at the numbers, they're nearly identical between Scott Rowland and Aramis Ramirez. They're like super close. And Rowland's at 52%. Aramis Ramirez got a single percent. One. He got 4 votes.
The other thing, too, I'm going to shit on Wagner again, but Billy Wagner and John Franco are pretty much the same player, only Franco was slightly better. Franco was, I don't have it in front of me, but I think he was like a 4 or 3% in his first ballot.
I will find him.
So, like, if Franco was...
John Franco was at 4.6%.
Okay.
Right behind Harold Baines was at 4.8%.
Yeah, and sometimes...
When he fell off the ballot.
Sometimes
Hall of Famer, Harold Baines.
And I like Harold Baines. I do. If Harold Baines... You would say this. If Harold Baines was your DH for a decade, would you not be thrilled?
Yeah. But by the way, so Harold Baines fell off the ballot in his 5th time. Can I just read you the names above him who are still not in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, please.
So finishing right above him was Juan Gonzalez at 5.2, Palmeiro at 11, Dale Murphy at 12.6. Harold Baines is in, Dale Murphy isn't. Don Mattingly at 13.6. Dave Parker at 15.3. Fred McGriff at 17.9. And Mark McGuire at 19.8. And then everybody else above them are all Hall of Famers.
That's
Harold
crazy.
Baines was not better than any of those players.
That's true. That is very true.
McGriff, McGuire, Parker, Mattingly, Murphy, Palmeiro, and Gonzalez are all better baseball players than Harold.
All right, I've got a great segue. Here's someone who was better than all of them. Our hammer for tonight. Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron.
Yep.
My God. I was looking at his stats, and I remember as a little kid. So here, I'm just trying to like rationalize this as a 10-year-old kid. Reading about stats and like home runs and other shit like that. How is this guy, Hank Aaron, the all-time leader in home runs when he never had a 50 home run season? Because he was consistent as fuck.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again. And then you learn more about baseball. And everything that he could do. Hank Aaron is one of the top 3, top 5 baseball players ever. No one can tell me otherwise.
I mean, particularly because other people you're going to be putting up against, with the exception of Willie Mays, didn't have to face what Aaron had to face.
Yeah. Well, and that's sort of an interesting thing when you say like what he had to face, and that was sort of like chasing the home run record, where shit, man, God, I hate that we have to talk about this crap, but we do. Where a lot of racist people said like, "Fuck you, we'd rather you die." I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but.
Right.
Which I can't imagine. I mean, obviously, it still goes around. I think a lot of people who would send those messages then are the same assholes who would send like a tweet now. How much do they really mean? I don't know. Hopefully not a lot, but still. You don't know that. The one thing that I remember as a little kid when learning about Hank Aaron And then watching the first little clips when it came out, or when I could see it, because there was no YouTube then or anything like that then. Hank Aaron hits was it 715 or 715?
Yeah, 715.
Okay. So he hits that home run in Atlanta. And there are one white guy who just runs up, with his shirt off, like so 70s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to shake his hand. And I wondered that then, and I wonder that now. And I'm sure he wrote a book, and I've got to find it. What the hell did he think when some random white guy just came up to him and just said, like, hey, congrats?
Well, you can see in that clip, because I've watched that clip a ton of times too.
Okay, yeah.
His first reaction is to shrug the guy off.
Okay.
I mean, that's what. I mean, I'm amazed he didn't hit him or try and defend himself. But his first reaction was you watch a guy comes up over his right shoulder, he like throws his right shoulder back to try and just knock the guy off of him.
Because it's a crazy scene to sort of like watch that back, and then watching the Vin Scully bit too, or not bit, where it says like, here, Hank Aaron, a black man cheered here in the Deep South, which I can't imagine as a Canadian. It blows my mind. And I've gotten to know some people from the Deep South who don't, how do I put this? They just don't epitomize that sort of racism that I would understand.
Okay.
But that's that's the people I met.
Yeah, I mean, this is still a fan base that does a tomahawk chop at all times.
That's true too. But if they don't know that, I don't know, man.
They know.
Yeah, they do. They do. It's also the same city where in 1996 they held the Olympics and had a Confederate flag flying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's got to be crazy. I mean, but I'm not going to crap on Atlanta, which is definitely the most cosmopolitan city in the South. Because I mean, Boston in 1974 was no better. Like we had riots over busing in Boston in 1974. So I mean, the whole country in general, just what he had to go through to get there was absolutely ridiculous. And I hate. It seems demeaning to say that how he handled it with such grace and class, but he did handle it with grace and class mainly because he kind of had to. Because if he fought back, then what's going to happen?
Yeah. Holy shit, the consistency that this guy had. I've never seen anything like that when I looked at like the baseball reference of a player. Like 30, 35 home runs plus, batting 300 over and over and over again. It's crazy. Just how good he was. And I'll miss him. I'll miss him a lot, just for how he sort of like made. I think a lot of people just sort of like feel about themselves. He was just that guy.
Yeah. And there are just so many. There are so few of those guys now left. Of ones who really had to fight the fight during that time period. I mean, you still got Mays, you still got Bill Russell. You got a few of those folks, but they're dwindling and they're few and far between. They're all in their 80s and 90s now. Right. I mean, not that people aren't still fighting, but I mean, the people at the forefront in sports in the 60s and into the mid 70s. Those guys are all getting super old now. So,
well, yeah, and there was something that was on my Twitter where somebody would ask if it was Willie Mays who was going up against the home run record, would he have faced as much as Hank Aaron?
It's a good question. I don't know.
So my response to that was not by much. Like slightly.
Yeah.
Because I think Willie Mays was that happy-go-lucky guy. And he never played those politics. Which is either right or wrong. I mean, there's not a right or wrong than that. He can do whatever he chooses to do. But I don't think I'm wrong in that. I think it's like slightly better, but not much.
Yeah, I don't think there's a significant difference. But I will say, just going out of this for a second, I will say,
yeah, please let's get out of this.
I happened to watch PTI that night, which I don't normally get to do, and Kornheiser and Wilbon were talking about him, and they pointed out that the greatest outfield ever assembled was the NL outfield in the All-Star game for like 5 consecutive seasons when it was Mays, Aaron, and Clemente.
Oh my God!
Like over and over and over again, like in the starting outfield for the NL in the late 60s into the early 70s.
That's crazy.
Mays, Aaron, and Clemente. That's it's kind of hard to beat.
Oh, very much so. All right, so next week, something always comes up.
Yeah, by the way, I do want to say someone wrap every other person with the number 44 in their history up in bubble wrap. Because that's, in the month of January, we've now lost Floyd Little, Paul Westphal, and Hank Aaron. So if you see Dan Issel, if you're anywhere near George Gervin, Jerry West, Jim Brown wore that in college and won the 44s in Syracuse. Even Danny Ainge. Like, just wrap those guys in bubble wrap, please.
Sounds like a plan. All right, Evan. Sounds good, man.
Talk to you later. 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 Talk to you later.